This Tuesday afternoon edition of Pucks Across Borders on Sports Attic Live and Total Apex Sports, brought to you by none other than First Round Collectibles. Right now with our promo code Sports Addict, get 10% off whatever sports card your heart desires. They even have an ongoing sale of up to 50% off with our promo code Sports Addict. Not only do you get 10% off of regular priced items, but sales items as well. Hockey, football, basketball, baseball, wrestling, boxing. First Round Collectibles has a sports card related to your favorite sport. Use promo code Sports Addict for 10% off sales and regular priced items. Go to firstroundcollectibles.com today and find your heroes. That's the number one, STRoundcollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans.
Yeah. Let's go. We just gotta go hard. I go the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what you used to. It's all part of the game. Yeah, I just gotta go hard. I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Yeah. Oh yeah, the beast back. Adrenaline pumping through my veins. Can't relax. Original. I am not the same.
And welcome to Pucks Across Borders on a Tuesday afternoon. Beautiful, sunny in Toronto. I don't know where it is or what the weather's like where you guys are at, but it is a beautiful, beautiful day here. Thank you so much for joining us. Lots to talk about from the NHL last night. Another coach firing. I guess it was the end of Buffalo's regular season, so it's not during the season, but this has to be some sort of a record for coach firings. We'll get into that. Lots of playoff scenarios. One spot remaining. We'll talk all about that. Lots to get into. 8 games on the ice tonight. But before we get into all of that, I am Mark Sauter, and at the top of your screen, you read his work about the NFL on Gridiron Heroics. You read his gambling picks on Winners and Whiners. You see him all over Total Apex Sports, talking football, talking basketball, talking baseball, talking about it all. Andre, how you feeling on a Tuesday?
It's hard not to feel great. So I feel fantastic. Thanks for asking, man.
Yeah, man. Lots of, your university alma mater won March Madness recently. The women's side made it to the Final Four. You got 2 teams looking to make deep runs in the playoffs. The Yankees look good. It's all coming up, Andre, right now. At the bottom of your screen, you read his work about the NFL on Gridiron Heroics. John, how you feeling on a Tuesday?
I'm glad I picked better yesterday than I did on Friday. So we're heading in the right direction to start this week. And got a few days left in the regular season. Tonight's going to be a big night for playoff implications. Let's get at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for mentioning how you're picking better. We all picked better. We got a clean sweep in our best bets last night. Getting hot, feeling good. You want to be playing your best as the playoffs come, right? That's what it's all about. And we got a couple teams playing their best that have a shot to get into the playoffs, and playing their worst and still have a shot to get into the playoffs. John, let's start with you, man. What was your takeaway from the NHL last night?
A lot happened last night, but I think my takeaway has to be the team that clinched a playoff spot last night, and that's the New York Islanders. They did it against my Devils. Not going to talk much about them, but I'll give the Islanders credit. They won the game they really needed to. I felt like they had a good shot at making the playoffs either way, but they took care of business last night, not let it get down to game 82. And I have to give the Islanders tremendous credit for their turnaround. I didn't think their new coach hire in the middle of the year was going to work out like that, but the Islanders are kind of looking like they're back to their old selves. They've gone on quite a run recently. They stole the number 3 spot in the Metropolitan essentially because it looked like it was Philadelphia's to lose for quite a while. And despite their losing streak, like the Islanders really stole it. Give them credit. I think that matchup's pretty much confirmed. The Islanders in Carolina. I think the Islanders are going to be a tough out. Like against anybody else, I think Carolina, I would say, would clear them easily. But I think the Islanders will present a real challenge, and they're a team I don't think is going to go away quietly in the playoffs. So I want to congratulate them on clinching a playoff spot and playing as well as they did to earn it.
Well, it's going to be interesting to watch, too, and I think I've mentioned this before, but back in the day when Patrick Waugh won the Jack Adams Award in Colorado, Varlamov was in Vezina contention. He was a finalist. He didn't win it, but he was a finalist, and he's reaching back and finding some of that form from over a decade ago, playing the best out of the 2 goaltenders. Of course, I'm talking about Sorokin as well. So it's going to be really interesting what the Islanders do here for the playoffs, because I think, no doubt, on a grand picture here, Sorokin's the better goalie. I think that's not really much of a debate. But if you're talking right now, it's clearly Varlamov. So I'm really interested to see what they do moving forward into the playoffs. I have a feeling like, why not just ride the hot hand, right? If this is the guy that kind of grabbed your team by the you-know-what and dragged you to the promised land, why not roll with them? So we'll see what happens. Super interesting story, of course. You are referring the Islanders only got 19 shots on goal in that game against your boys last night, but it was more than enough to get the job done. Andre, over to you, man. What was your takeaway in the NHL last night? And do we even have to ask?
I don't think you do. The New York Rangers, President's Trophy winners for the 2023-2024 season, 30 years after their second President's Trophy win, which ended in a Stanley Cup title, trophy, I should say. It was the 4th time in franchise history. Apparently, that's the second most ever to the Red Wings. I didn't know that until yesterday. And I did see a graph, though. You know, we got to talk about the curse. It's a thing, right? Every team since 2015, 2016 that has won the President's Trophy has flamed out in the first or second round. What was carefully omitted from that graph that I believe was produced by ESPN, the 2014-2015 winners made it to Game 7 of the conference finals, and that was the New York Rangers. I am hoping my boys break this supposed curse. I asked for it yesterday. Don't make me look bad. I really feel good about this team. They're not going to be the odds-on favorites to win the Stanley Cup, even with the trophy. That's fine. I don't care about that. Just play good hockey. Don't do the dumb, boneheaded stuff you were doing late December and most of January. And I hope to see you in June.
I hope to see you in late May, man. This is so a couple things. Number one, if they're not the odds-on favorite, that's fine. I know you're going to bet them to win the Stanley Cup, so you get better odds that way. So that's fine. There's no big deal. Second of all, I'm rooting for your guys, man. I've always, even before we knew each other, I've always had a love for the New York Rangers. I always like to see them do well. It's just one of those teams, man. The NHL, I feel like, is always more exciting when the Rangers are involved. And as a Leafs fan, we won't see you guys until the conference finals if we both get that far. Based on past history, I don't even have to do the context of this year. I'm just speaking about historically. I think you guys have a way better chance of getting that far than we do. But I'm going to be rooting for you all the way. And if the Leafs play the Rangers in the conference finals, I think that'll be a lot of fun. And that's when I'll stop rooting for you. But I am absolutely here for you. And if you make it to the Stanley Cup finals, I want to let you know this. I will be rooting for you unless you play a Canadian team, because the Canadian country also known as Canada, hasn't been known, has not brought the Stanley Cup home in a long, long time. So those are the scenarios, the parameters that I will be cheering for you. Now, the Buffalo Sabres finish off their season last night against the Lightning. They win 4-2. Very nice. Doing what they do, winning when it doesn't matter. And this morning, they have fired Coach Don Granato. Now, I didn't see this. Andre, you saw that they've fired more of the coaching staff. I don't want to put you on the spot, but
yeah, I'm pulling it up now. Off the top of my head, I remember seeing head coach, video coordinator. I feel like one of the assistant coaches. They seems like they're pretty much just cleaning the staff. Entirely.
That general manager is
his job.
He's really going out of his way to. Hey, it's not my fault. The video coordinator, he's got to go, man. Not my fault. They're really digging deep in the cupboards there to find someone to blame here. This is my thing. All right, listen. I understand how this works. Okay, I follow hockey. I follow sports. I know that the coaches are the easiest ones to replace, as far as you're not gonna just let go all the players. You're not gonna fire the GM. At least not right away. Like, I understand how this all works, okay? But in the NHL, and we talked about this earlier in the season, with all the coaching firings that have happened throughout the course of this NHL season. St. Louis, right? Minnesota, Edmonton, Los Angeles, there's more. Who am I forgetting? The Devils. This is my thing with regards to the Buffalo Sabres. These players, you have a good team there, at least for the future. Excuse me. I think adding Byram to your back end, I think was a really, really good move at the deadline. And I think that's going to pay dividends for you moving forward. I really do think I'm not going to get fooled into predicting anything to do with the Ottawa Senators next year. But for Buffalo, I really do think that this team has the bones. Their goaltending really, really came around towards the end of the year. They finished the season 10th in goals allowed, which, if you would think about that, like, would probably shock most people. I like this Buffalo team, and I like where they're going next year. They need some consistency. Like, Dahlin, how many coaches has he had? Like 5? 6? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I understand how this works, and I know why you did it, but the team salvaged the year and with like this close, right? They lost to Detroit on a Saturday a couple weekends ago, and if they won that game, the end of this season would have looked like a lot different, right? I don't know. I get it. I just feel like these young players, Tage Thompson, all these guys have known is just a different coach every year. And I just feel like you're damaging these players and their potential with your team when they're just being introduced to a new leader and new system every single season. So that's my opinion. That's my piece. It does not matter. Again, I get why it happened, but these young players, man, all they've known is coaching changes. And what does that do for your consistency? What does that do for your development? Those are questions that I ask moving into the off season. All right, so boys, let's talk about it, man. We got a busy night in the NHL. I don't think we even have to go over any bad beats last night because we swept the parlay. And at the end of the show, we'll do our best bets and we will do it again. All right, scenarios going into this not final night. There's three nights left in the NHL regular season. As of right now, as John mentioned, the Islanders clinched a playoff spot with that win last night. The Washington Capitals have 89 points. They're the last wildcard spot. The Detroit Red Wings have 89 points. They play Montreal tonight. Washington plays Philly tonight. Pittsburgh has 88 points. Philadelphia has 87 points. The Washington Capitals will clinch a playoff berth if they defeat the Philadelphia Flyers at all. Regulation, overtime, it doesn't matter. If they beat Philly, then they're in. Detroit will clinch a playoff spot if they beat Montreal, and if the Capitals lose to the Flyers, again, in regulation or overtime, it does not matter. There's a bunch of division clinching scenarios as well that can happen tonight, and we can go into that as the show goes on. As for the Pittsburgh Penguins, let's start with the Philadelphia Flyers. If they win tonight, and this is where it gets super mathematical and weird and confusing, but if Philadelphia wins tonight, Detroit loses tonight, and Pittsburgh loses against the Islanders tomorrow, then it would come down to Philadelphia and Washington, and Philly would have the fourth tiebreaker, which is goal differential. And it is crazy when you have a minus 25 goal differential and you will beat the other team in a goal differential tiebreaker, where the Washington Capitals have a minus 38 goal differential. Pittsburgh will get into the playoffs if Philly wins and Montreal wins. And of course, they have to win tomorrow night against the Islanders. That game will mean nothing to the Islanders. The odds are already up, and Pittsburgh is a huge favorite. So those are your scenarios heading into the playoffs. I'll ask you guys what you think, but as we predict some of these games, the answers will be revealed. Let's get into the games tonight. Did I miss anything, boys?
I don't think so, man.
Today marks the end of a very long-running bit, but we're going to get to that shortly.
All right, my brain is completely escaping me. We'll see what happens. I'm excited. All right, moving on to Beantown, where the Ottawa Senators, it's the last day. Is this what maybe? I don't know. This is the last day that I have to talk about this team, and I am so happy about it. It is over. Excuse me. The Ottawa Senators have 81 games. They're playing tonight. 81 plus 1 equals 82. There's only 82 games in the regular season, which means that I don't have to talk about this team for the next 2.5 months, and I could not be happier. The Ottawa Senators plus 180 underdogs on the road in Boston, where the Bruins are minus 218 at home. The over is 6 at minus 105, and the under is minus 115. Plus 1.5 for the Senators is minus 135. Minus 1.5 for the Bruins is plus 114. Andre, let's start with you, man. What do you see in this game tonight?
Senators playing for nothing, played in the Garden yesterday, did what they do on the road all season, and that's lose in very convincing fashion. Bruins, they wrap up a division with this one. After, last year for them, great regular season, flamed out in the playoffs, embarrassing fashion. getting home ice, having a strong regular season again, getting to go home, take on the Lightning in the first round, I feel like is not the path they want necessarily, but it's better than the alternative of falling to that 2 seed. So Bruins stamp this one, take home the Atlantic. They win by multiple goals, take that -1.5.
Yeah,
John,
I don't think the Bruins like want to lose the division, even though I don't think either opponent they could face, being Toronto versus Tampa, is ideal for them. But I agree with Andre in that I still think you want to win the division, even though both teams look very difficult right now. Um, I'm gonna shift differently than the puck line here. Um, I'm going to go over 6 here. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I don't trust the Boston puck line. I think they've had too many close calls this year, despite the stakes they have tonight. And they're still playing a back-to-back. The over 6, I'm picking it because both of these teams got shut out last night. So I feel like there's a bit of a gut feeling on my part where I think they're due for a correction there. Ottawa got shut out by the Rangers. Boston got shut out by the Capitals. I don't think that'll happen again, especially with what these two teams are capable of scoring. So I'm going to take the over 6 here, mainly because I think Boston will win this game. I just don't know if I trust the puck line.
So I know I've been boycotting a few Ottawa Senators games here over the last couple of weeks, but I'll pick Boston -1.5 here. I don't think it's this season's done. I'm not scared of this at all. Boston -1.5 at +114. This does open up a conversation that I do want to have really quickly, and we do have a couple dud games that we can kind of breeze through. So I'll take a couple minutes here and ask you guys, because you just kind of opened up something, and as a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, I have to make it all about me because we're the center of the hockey universe. Everyone knows that. So talking about if Boston wins the division, they play Tampa. If they lose the division, they play the Leafs. I know what my answer is. Who would you guys rather play? Would you rather play Toronto or would you rather play Tampa? You can take it in the context of the Boston Bruins or just in general. Who would you rather play in a playoff series? Andre, you go first.
If I'm looking at it from the Rangers' perspective, I think I'd rather play Tampa. If I'm looking at it from Boston or Florida, or I think there's multiple teams where, because of goaltending alone, I think Vasilevsky is better than. Is it going to be Samsonov or Woll probably starting game 1?
Yeah, probably Samsonov.
I think you'd fear Vasi and Kucherov more than Matthews and whoever starts for Toronto's goaltending. And for that reason, because goaltending can carry you through a series. So for that reason alone, I think a lot of teams would rather face Toronto. But either way, you're in a tough spot. So
yeah.
There's no winning there.
Yeah, that's a great point about the goaltending. John, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything Andre said. I think both of these teams are difficult first-round opponents for Boston and Florida. That Atlantic division is just like a gauntlet. I think it's the toughest division of the 4, personally. Whoever makes it out of there to the Eastern Conference Finals is really going to earn it. With that said, I think I'd rather face Toronto than Tampa for similar reasons. Both teams are threatening scoring-wise, but I think I trust Tampa's goaltending a bit more. And I also trust Tampa's experience in the playoffs a little bit more, to be perfectly honest, because I don't like to bring this up, but Toronto hasn't exactly had a stellar playoff history recently. And Tampa, I mean, they're like the cream of the crop when it comes to playoff history. So I think I'm afraid of that part coming out if I'm a team playing Tampa Bay, almost like the Golden State Warriors a couple of years ago when they won it all in 2022 again. I would be afraid of that coming out for Tampa Bay again because they're playing really good hockey right now. Toronto, I just haven't seen it yet. So I'm a little bit less intimidated to play them if I'm speaking objectively. But I think either way, both of them would be difficult first-round opponents.
Yeah, I would agree. with all that for the most part as well. I think from a Boston perspective, I just think Boston is in Toronto's head. Like for me, from the Boston Bruins perspective, you beat this team in the playoffs every time you play them. I know it's a different team over the last 10 years, but I mean, Brad Marchand, like him alone, like if he's in your head, then the whole team's in your head. That's just how it rolls with a player like him. You hate him if he's on the other team, but you love him if he's on your team. And the Leafs haven't beat Boston like this whole year. So from a Boston Bruins perspective, I just think that they have the Leafs number, and it'd be interesting to see what that would look like in the playoffs. As far as Tampa goes, I do think Tampa is a very, very gettable team. But if Assy gets anything back from what he had in those 3 cup final runs, of course, winning 2, yeah, good night. That's a scary proposition. So will be interesting to see. Moving on to Carolina and the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, Carolina minus 162 on the road. Columbus is plus 136. I would be interested to see how this moves by puck drop, because this game doesn't matter to Columbus, but it especially doesn't matter against Carolina. I feel like it's only minus 162 because Carolina has already announced that they're starting like nobody. I haven't seen anything. That's my opinion. We all look at these odds every single day, and if Carolina was starting their full slate of players, Carolina would be minus 200, minus 300 favorites in this game. Minus 200 for sure. So I'd be interested to see how this line moves. Columbus is plus 136. If you have any inkling to take that number, I'd take the Columbus number right now. But again, look into who's starting for Carolina. The over is 6 at minus 105. The under is minus 115. Minus 1.5 for Carolina is plus 160. Plus 1.5 for the Blue Jackets is minus 192. John, we'll start with you, man. What do you see in this one?
Keeping this short because it's not really a relevant game. If you have some fun money, take a shot at Columbus money line. Why not? But this would be like the last game on the slate I would recommend betting, because it's too unpredictable, with Carolina essentially probably going to not take this game too seriously. Columbus is arguably definitely the worst team in the East, maybe the NHL. I just wouldn't feel comfortable betting the side. I don't even like the total in this game either, because I think it's sitting around 6. And with how many guys Carolina probably isn't playing, or playing at full strength at least, I would just stay away. But if you really want to take a shot in the dark, if you have a couple bucks to lose that you're willing to risk, maybe take Columbus.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I would bet Columbus in this game. I don't think there's really that much of a concern. I think it's the last game for Columbus at home. I mean, it's their last game in general, but last game at home. Carolina, I don't think is starting anybody. Take Columbus. It's worth the risk. Andre, what do you say?
I looked at the goalie matchup for this game and I got confused. Carolina is starting former Blue Jacket. You know, I say former, I mean he started like 13 games for him this year. Spencer Martin. In net against Chet Greaves. So like last night with the Edmonton game, I'm just going to say take the over. If you want to take a shot on plus money, take the Blue Jackets, but who knows who's going to win or lose this game. This means absolutely nothing to Carolina. This means absolutely nothing to Columbus. So yeah, just expect weaker goalies to let in pucks.
Yeah, I mean, now that I know the goaltending matchups, I'm right there with you with that over. All right, moving on to a very important game. Detroit at Montreal. Detroit is minus 192 on the road. Montreal plus 160 at home. The over is 6.5 at minus 105. The under is minus 115. Minus 1.5 for the Red Wings is plus 130. Plus 1.5 for the Canadians is minus 155. Detroit 4-3-3 their last 10. Montreal 3-4-3 in their last 10. Lucas Raymond, man, this guy is a guy possessed right now. 6 goals in his last 5 games. I believe he got 2 last night, if memory serves correct. For him to score a goal tonight is plus 160. Dylan Larkin, the captain, he has been a horse for this team all year long. He is plus 120 to score tonight. If you think that the Detroit Red Wings are going to win tonight, and you think that they're going to clinch that playoff spot, or at least put themselves in a position to clinch if a bunch of other stuff happens, I guess just like Washington losing, I would bet those 2 guys to score a goal. I just feel like if they win, those 2 guys are going to will them to victory. One thing about this game tonight, and it's why I don't like the -1.5. Detroit, they are winning by the skin of their teeth. I feel like every game, like they're losing in the third period, storming back and winning a game in dramatic fashion. I feel like they're in overtime pretty much every game. Every game that they have played against the Montreal Canadiens has gone to overtime. Sorry about that. Every game they have played against Montreal has gone to overtime. 1 in November, 1 in December, and 1 last night. Every game has gone into overtime. 2 of those games were 5-4, and 1 of those games was 3-2. So that is an interesting one. If we're looking at a draw, that is at plus 340. From a Detroit perspective, they beat Montreal in overtime, beat Toronto in overtime, lost to Pittsburgh in overtime, lost to Washington, lost to Buffalo, lost to the Rangers, beat Tampa Bay, lost to Florida in a shootout, lost to Carolina, lost to Washington in overtime. This Detroit team loves overtime. So that plus 340, I think, is good value. But you know what? As far as the side goes, I'll probably stay away, but honestly, I'm kind of leaning Montreal. I think this is where the magic ends. They're playing with fire right now. Every single night they're playing with fire, and they're just keeping these other teams around for way too long. They're not taking care of business early enough in the game, and I think it's going to catch up with them tonight, and I think Montreal wins. So give me Montreal, and give me a draw, plus 340. Let's go. John, what do you think?
I'm Montreal all the way here. I think Detroit's pretty lucky they're in the situation they're in right now. They probably should have lost last night, but came back from at least 2 goals down, scored 2 goals in the third, and got the goal in overtime they needed to win the game and keep their hopes alive. I just don't think you can expect that to happen twice with the Red Wings against Montreal. And I say that because Detroit's not winning a ton of the games they need to, except last night. And B, Montreal, I've said it before and I'll say it again, they've been feisty. And don't underestimate them based on their record. I think it's a lot to ask to beat this team twice, especially going back to Montreal for the second one in this home and home. So I feel like Montreal's going to play spoiler one last time when it matters most. I just have a feeling Detroit's missing the playoffs, and I don't think you can expect Detroit to pull off magic 2 nights in a row against the same team. So give me Montreal money line here.
Andre, what about you, man? Clean sweep for Montreal, or are you going a different direction?
Yeah, I picked Montreal yesterday, and I know they choked, but that didn't deter me whatsoever because I feel the same way about this Red Wings team. They're not playing well. And they're not going to – this escape back's going to run out eventually. It runs out tonight. They're going to pick up 1 point because it's going to go to overtime, as these games have all season long. And that 1 point will keep the Penguins alive potentially. May be enough to get them over the Capitals momentarily, but they're not going to win this game. I like the Canadiens. And the Canadiens have scored in the first period of all 3 games against the Red Wings so far this season. They're minus 150 to do that tonight. Not the greatest odds, but you can toss that in a parlay somewhere. Or you could take the Canadians to score the first goal. They did that in 2 of the 3 games because they score every first period against the Red Wings. That's plus 110.
I love that. Detroit's given up the first goal a lot lately. I know they did it against Toronto. I know they did it last night. Absolutely love that bet. All right, moving on to this is where the turtle race reaches its climax, if you will. The Washington Capitals are in Philadelphia. We laid out the scenario. Washington, they win, they're in. Philly, they need some help, but they can keep their hopes alive with a win in regulation. I heard this on the radio this morning, and I believe John actually said this in our pre-show. If it's tied in the third period, Philly needs a regulation win. We could see a little pull goalie action at 3-3 or 2-2 or whatever, a tied game in the third period. Going to be really interesting to see. Philadelphia, minus 135 at home. Washington plus 114 on the road. The over is 5.5 at minus 120. The under is plus 100. Plus 1.5 for the Capitals is minus 218. Minus 1.5 for the Flyers is plus 180. Andre, let's start with you, man. What do you see in this game tonight?
Yeah, by the end of this night, or I guess next time, I don't even know how to phrase this. When this game is over, the Capitals either be in the playoffs or they won't be, which means they'll either be playing the Rangers or we won't see them again until next year. The point I'm trying to say is this is the last time I'm ever going to be able to say the future Stanley Cup champion Washington Capitals this season. It's over. It was a good run, but it's dead. Huge win for them last night. And the Flyers, they picked up 2 wins in a row. Impressive one in the Garden last Thursday. Saturday against the Devils, only a 1-0, kind of squeaked that one out to end that ridiculous losing streak. But like 1.5 good games from them, I'm not really buying it, especially since the Capitals' season on the line. Lightning, Bruins, back-to-back wins, both multi-goal. I know this is in Philly, but this Flyers team has been shaky at home all season. So I think the Capitals are going to win this one. I'm going to take that plus 114. I think, if it's a tie game or if they're trailing, desperation sets in. They pull the goal a little earlier.
Yeah.
Empty netter. It snowballs. So.
Listen, I have been pumping the tires of this Philadelphia team all year long. I love this story. It's been a great story. I think the antics by Torts over the last few weeks has really put a damper on what's been a really, really fun story. This team should be proud of where they are. Nobody thought that they would have this chance going into the season. Of course, the last stretch has not turned out the way they wanted. 6-2. Wow. 2-6-2. In the last 10 games. They are on a 2-game winning streak. I want to say Philly with everything that is inside of me, and maybe I'm wrong here. Listen, Torts said it himself, that there are certain players on this team, and I don't know what players they are. Who knows? But Torts believes that this team is not ready to play in big moments. Torts has said it himself that this team does not have what it takes to win big games. And this is the biggest game of all year. This is it, right? So if I'm going to listen to the words of their coach and what he believes about this team, then I'd be a fool not to pick Capitals in this one. I want to see Philly win. I'll be rooting for Philly to win. I would love to see it. That's my second city, man. I love that place. But what we've seen over the last little bit, how can you trust the goaltending? How can you trust the structure of this team and the way they've played when their own coach is making comments about how they don't have what it takes? So if he doesn't think they have what it takes, then I don't either. And I'm taking the Capitals to win as well. Give me the Capitals plus 114. John, what about you?
I think it's a lot to ask for the Capitals to win back-to-back. And I am still skeptical that they're really going to end up being a playoff team. Capitals are playing back-to-back. They coming off one of the best wins of the year last night against the Bruins, shutting them out 2-0. I don't think they're going to do it again, especially at Philadelphia. And given that Philadelphia needs a regulation win, I'm going to go a step further and pick the Flyers in the 60-minute line because I don't think they're going to allow. I don't think they're allowing this game to go to overtime. I said it in the pre-show where if an overtime win does the Flyers no good, Tortorella knows that. So they're going to be coaching. I think Tortorella is going to be coaching very aggressively if they find themselves tied late. I just don't feel like this game's ending up in overtime. I have a feeling the Flyers are going to pull this out, stay alive for another night, and maybe, just maybe, get their playoff spot back. So I trust the defense, trust the goaltending here, especially against an anemic offense in which the Capitals have. Give me the Flyers 60 minutes.
Wow. And anemic. Great word, John. Very well done. Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating game. I'm looking forward to watching it. Moving on to the Florida Panthers hosting the Toronto Maple Leafs. Toronto is plus 136 on the road, where Florida is minus 162. The over is 6 at minus 122. The under is plus 102. Toronto plus 1.5 is minus 185. Minus 1.5 for the Panthers is plus 194. Couple injuries for the Toronto Maple Leafs creeping into the last couple games throughout the regular season. The Toronto Maple Leafs are the only Eastern Conference team that has 2 games remaining. They play tonight and tomorrow, which means that Austin Matthews has 2 games to get to 70 goals, and I think he does it. Now, he is minus 140 to score tonight. If you're in Canada, most sports books have boosts for him to score a goal and for something else to happen. There's FanDuel boost right now here in Ontario for George Springer to get a hit for the Blue Jays and for Matthews to score is like plus 425 or something like that. You can find fun little plays like that to parlay, or first goal or last goal or 2 goals, all that good stuff. You gotta bet Matthews to get a goal and hope you can get some money on him making history. As far as an actual side, I don't really know which way to go here. Toronto is up 2-1 in the season series. I'm gonna take the Maple Leafs plus money. I know they got some injuries. I know it's the end of the year. I know they're in Florida. I know this game matters more for Florida than for Toronto. But you're giving me the Maple Leafs plus money. They're feeling good. I also think, and I'll keep this short here, I really do think that Austin Matthews scoring 70 has really done something to this team. And I've heard people say that this is their Stanley Cup, and once he scores 70, it does like nothing else. Like whatever, it's gonna fall off a cliff. I disagree. I think they want him to get that so badly. I think if he scores 70, it's unlocking something within this team, a camaraderie that we haven't really seen. Not that we haven't seen camaraderie, but it's just at a different level than it's been all year long. And so I think this chase for 70 is much deeper than just him making history. I think it really matters. So give me the Maple Leafs to win tonight and give me Matthews to get a goal. Andre, what about you?
My only notes for this game were Austin Matthews, and that's not a joke. So Austin Matthews goal scorer over on shots, whatever your sportsbook has it at. I feel like Toronto, they're locked into the 3, so pretty much all they're going to be trying to do is feed Matthews, get him 70.
Yes.
That's all I got.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. John, what do you think?
Not to beat a dead horse, but I agree. I think given Toronto's locked into the 3 seed, they're going to be feeding Austin Matthews to pad his stats a little bit. So bet on him to score a goal or 2. Other than that, I got nothing really to offer here. Well, I think that's the best bet at least.
Amazing. Moving on to the Seattle Kraken. I almost said Seahawks for some reason. With all these Philadelphia Eagles contract signings, and I can't wait for football season, I guess. But anyway, the Seattle Kraken, they are in Winnipeg to play the Winnipeg Jets, Seattle, plus 190 on the road. Winnipeg, minus 230 at home. The over is 5.5 at minus 105. The under is minus 115. Plus 1.5 for the Kraken is minus 135. Minus 1.5 for the Jets is plus 114. John, what do you see in this one?
Gonna keep this short. Winnipeg's playing for the second seed in their division. I think they'll get it. I think this is a great matchup for them with their elite goaltending and Seattle's anemic score offense. Give me the Jets puck line. I'm done.
Andre, what about you?
Yeah, the Jets' last 2 games, they shut out top 3 offenses in both of them. The Kraken, their last 3 games, they scored exactly 1 goal. One of those was at home against the Sharks. You can get the Jets to win with a shutout at plus 750. You can get the Kraken under 1.5 goals at plus 170. You can
Love
get
it.
Hellbuck shutout at plus 800. Those are all great, but I like the under. And I like the puck line for Winnipeg.
Yeah, I love that angle a lot with regards to the shutout and all that. And John, I like what you were saying about they're fighting for home ice advantage against the Colorado Avalanche. The other thing with the Jets, we've seen this for the last couple months. I talked about it yesterday. This team has been a Jekyll and Hyde team for the back half of this season. There's moments where we thought they were contenders. There's moments where we've been really worried about them. And I think it really matters for them to finish off the season strong. I really do. Does it really matter in the grand scheme of things? I think Colorado is going to be a really hard matchup either way. But I think if you have one more home game than Colorado does, seeing how Colorado's played at home all year long, I think that really matters. So give me Winnipeg minus 1.5 at plus 114. I'll take that under 5.5 for the reasons that you mentioned, Andre, and everything Andre had to say about the shutout, no goals, under 1.5, all of that. I'm all over that. I love it. Moving on to Calgary and Vancouver, where the Calgary Flames, disappointing season, just about coming to an end. They are plus 185 on the road in Vancouver, where the Canucks are minus 225. The over is 6 at minus 122. The under is plus 102. Plus 1.5 for the Flames is minus 135. Minus 1.5 for the Canucks is plus 114. Now, according to NHL.com, if they get 1 point tonight, the Canucks, then they clinch the division. That's all that they need. For me, I also heard that Demko is back and in net tonight for the Canucks. And this guy hasn't played in a long time, and I'm expecting a very defensively tight game from the Vancouver Canucks. I know it doesn't really matter, but I'm taking Vancouver minus 1.5 at plus 114. I think they play really well in front of Demko, considering he hasn't been on the ice in an NHL game situation for a long time. So give me Vancouver minus 1.5 at plus 114. Andre, what about you?
Yeah, these teams met March 23rd in Vancouver. The Canucks won 4-2. This time around, it's for the division, like you just said. I don't think much is going to change. Canucks, they've beaten Calgary twice in a row this season. Make it 3 in a row. I like that puck line. And every game between these teams has had at least 6 goals this season. I don't think that's going to change, so I'm going to take the over.
Love it. John, what do you got?
Also like the over in this game for kind of the opposite reasons. I feel like Vancouver might play a little bit lax tonight. I'm not sure I feel as confident taking the puck line, but I do think they'll find a way to win this game in general. I do think they're going to hang on to the division despite all the concerns we've had for them. I just don't feel extremely confident in the puck line. I kind of like the over because I think this will come down to, excuse me, a late goal, something like that. Demko might be a bit rusty too. So I'm taking that into consideration. I kind of agree with Andre about the over. I think that's my favorite play. I wouldn't be betting the Calgary money line though. I do think Vancouver will win. I just don't feel confident in the puck line.
All right, moving on to the last game of the evening. Now, the Chicago Blackhawks are in Las Vegas. Now, in a normal like Tuesday in February, I would understand this puck line. Chicago is plus, or this money line rather. Chicago is plus 320. Vegas is minus 410. The over is 6 at minus 110 both ways. Plus 1.5 for Chicago is plus 130. Minus 1.5 for the Golden Knights is minus 155. Going over to the standings in the West, Vegas has 96 points. Kings have 97 points. So the only thing that really matters here is the Kings or the Golden Knights have the ability to leapfrog into that third spot in the Pacific. So you're either playing Dallas or you're playing Edmonton. How much does that really matter? I think being healthy is much more important than who you play, because either way, that's going to suck for you. So for me, I'm taking Chicago here. I think Chicago can win this game. I think Vegas, they've been battling injuries all year long. I know that Hurdle was a trade deadline pickup. Mark Stone isn't playing until game 1 of the regular season. How convenient, eh? Coming off of LTIR for game 1. But anyway, that's another conversation. So I like Chicago here. Why not? We've discussed this the last couple days. Fun money. Don't bet the mortgage on this. I'm just saying. You got a few bucks to play with. Put it on Chicago. This game doesn't matter to anybody. You can argue it matters for Vegas, but I don't totally agree with you. John, what do you think?
I'm not going as far as you, but I think Chicago is the side I would lean towards here for pretty much everything you said. While this game does matter to Vegas, I don't trust them to blow the Blackhawks out, because you pretty much have to get them at minus 2.5 to make it worth your while, which I don't feel like Vegas is winning this game by 3 goals. I just don't. And I'm not as aggressive as Mark here picking the money line, but I will back the puck line here on the Blackhawks end. I think at plus 1.5, it's a good deal for what you're getting. About plus 120, plus 125, depending on what sports book you go to. So I think Vegas will try to squeak this game out, but don't be shocked if they lose. But I think the Blackhawks keep this close, so I agree with you, Mark. But I'm just being a little more conservative here. I'm taking the puck line.
Andre, what do you got? Finish it off for us, bro.
Yeah, this to me is just a rehash of Oilers Sharks yesterday.
Right.
Just a little further east. And
boy, was I wrong about that one, eh?
Well, yeah. I don't see 2.5 available yet, just like yesterday, funny enough. So I'm going to say take the over for now until that minus 2.5 becomes available for Vegas in this case. And then if you do have a little bit of change you want to just toss on it, the Sharks goalie said life is short, we're all going to die anyway. And he's right. So Blackhawks 60-minute line if you just want to toss $5 on it.
Plus 475. Dude, that should be higher than plus 475. Anyway, that's hilarious. Listen, before we get to our best bets to round this off, we're going to finish off the show. Thank you to everybody who joined us today, either live or later on in the day. We appreciate you. Shout out to Connor McDavid. We forgot to mention this at the beginning of the show, but Andre, you just reminded me talking about that game last night against San Jose. Connor McDavid becomes the 4th player in NHL history to get 100 points. I feel like Kucherov is right there tomorrow. He didn't already do it, did he? I think he has a chance to do it tomorrow. I could be wrong about that, but either way, shout out to Connor McDavid. The fact that you guys won 9-2 and it took you until the 9th goal to get it, no one's going to remember that, bro. No one's going to remember it. All they're going to remember is 100 assists. So congratulations. Now you just got to do it 10 more times to catch up to Wayne Gretzky's record of 11 11 seasons with 100 assists. Did I need to do that? I didn't need to do that. Congratulations, bro, on 100 assists in the NHL. That is 100 more assists than I have gotten ever. So moving on to our best bets, brought to you by none other than First Round Collectibles. Use promo code SportsAddict for 10% off any sports card in the store, including sales items up to 50% off. So with our promo code, any card that is on sale up to 50% off, you get an additional 10% off. Go to firstroundcollectibles.com today and find your heroes. That's the number one, STRoundcollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans. Andre, we'll start with you, man. What's your best bet in the NHL tonight?
Wow, I was hoping I wasn't first. I'm gonna go. I was hoping when you whittle it down. I'm gonna go with the Bruins -1.5. It's the Senators. It's the Senators on the road. It's the Bruins trying to win the division, trying to get home ice over basically everyone in the East except for the Rangers and the Canes. So Boston -1.5.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? With the win tonight, you get home ice up until the conference final. So it's not nothing. I hear you there. John, what about you?
As much as I want to have fun making the best bets, being one of the teams contending for a playoff spot, there's one game I feel better about that I can't ignore. That's the Winnipeg Jets. I think this is a great matchup for them against Seattle, and I think there's just enough to play for with that home ice advantage, as Mark mentioned before, with knowing how difficult it is to play in Colorado. I think Winnipeg is going to take that seriously, and they pretty much just have to win one game to get that home ice over Colorado. I think it'll happen tonight. I don't think they could ask for a better matchup than Seattle with how these teams play. So give me Winnipeg puck line as my best bet.
You took my best bet, bro, but you know what? That's okay, because I'm just going to pivot.
You want me to change it?
No, I'm going to pivot just a couple provinces west. We're going to go to Vancouver, where the Canucks play Calgary. Like I said, Demko's back tonight. Whether the like overhits or not, I don't know anything about that, but I really do feel like Vancouver's going to play a solid game tonight. That game against Edmonton on Saturday was one of the best games I've seen from them in months, and I watch almost every Vancouver game, so I was really impressed with what I saw on Saturday. They're playing Calgary. Calgary just wants to go to the golf course, man. It's done. -1.5 for Vancouver. We got a little -1.5 parlay cooking, boys. A little risky, but I love it. Let's go.
Is it risky though? I think that's a pretty good thing. +880.
I love it.
3 points.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not.
And I mean, they're all +114 on their own. I think that's kind of neat symmetry right there. Look at us.
Oh, that's symbolic of some kind.
Yeah. Camaraderie. We're tightening up come playoff time. But yeah, Bruins -1.5, +114. Jets -1.5, +114. Canucks -1.5, +14. We get further north, we get further west with each one, and the total odds are +880.
880. Absolutely love it. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Like I said, whether it's live or throughout the day, we appreciate you. Shout out to Total Apex Sports for having us on board. Check out their platform all day long. Your boy Andre will be talking everything over there. Some play-in tournament, I'm assuming. We'll have our playoff previews on Thursday and Friday, but a little bit more hockey to talk about before then. First Round Collectibles, promo code SportsAct for 10% off. We will see you guys tomorrow.